The second section of verses in Chapter 2 of the Lotus Sutra are devoted to the enumeration of a great variety of practices, each of which is identified with the attainment of the Buddha way. The only difference is that in this section it is not the central teachings or the central practices of early Buddhism, but a wide proliferation of simple devotional actions such as drawing or painting images of the Buddha or paying homage at stupas or shrines with flowers, incense, flags, and umbrellas. Indeed, the stress is on the slightest of the action, such as singing the merits of the Buddhas even with a low voice, paying homage to the painted images even with distracted mind and a single flower, or entering a temple with a distracted mind and calling but once on the name of the Buddha. By all of these and more, one is able to attain the Buddha way. The practices are extremely simple, but the perspective is long, as is apparent from the following quotation. Even boys in their play, who, either with reed, wood, or pen, or with the fingernail, have drawn Buddha images, all such ones as these, gradually accumulating merit and perfecting hearts of great compassion, have all attained the Buddha way. If they only conjure up the figures of a bodhisattva, they bring across countless creatures. At the time, the practice may seem slight and careless, but in retrospect, the intentionality of it tending toward the Buddha way is what is reckoned to count. Everything depends on the way the act is taken. Positively taken, the most minor act can have a karmic effect which ultimately links up with the far-reaching merit of the great bodhisattvas, sweeping along countless living beings to emancipation. There is another fine statement of the same idea in this same section. Or those who have offered worship, were it merely by folding the hands, or even raising a hand, or by slightly bending the head, by thus paying homage to the Buddhas, gradually see innumerable Buddhas, themselves attain the supreme way, extensively bring across countless creatures, and enter nirvana without residue, as when firewood is finished, the fire dies out. The Lotus Sutra teaches that the notion of nirvana and the whole ninefold teaching of the Buddha is not to be considered as other than a means or more than a means, while at the same time it teaches that actions such as slightly bending the head are also to be understood in terms of the same dialectic. In any such case, there is a tussle of meanings, and it is a question of not getting stuck in a provisional meaning, but of resolving the tension in the right direction. Thus, this section of Chapter 2 represents a dramatic extension of the implications of the concept of skillful means. Many of the practices referred to here are carried on also in non-Mahayana Buddhism, but the karmic connections are there taken in a somewhat more pedestrian way. On the one hand, the promise of the simple action is not drawn out so dramatically, and on the other hand, the more austere and ambitious aspects of Buddhist teaching are not criticized in the Mahayana fashion. The somewhat hierarchically ordered arrangement of the items of the Buddhist religion tends to be maintained in the Theravada form, while it was laid low by the Mahayana. Nevertheless, the continuities which exist in this area of popular devotion are difficult to evaluate and may be more significant than is at first sight apparent. The third section of the longer exposition in verse contains a restatement of the traditional legend about the decision of the Buddha to preach to his fellow men after he had attained enlightenment. This narrative sequence and its relation to the pre-Mahayana account is one of the areas in which it is possible to see the explicit dialectics of the Mahayana cradled in the thought of early Buddhism. Briefly stated, the narrative here explains that while the Buddha was at first reluctant to teach at all because of the profundity of his experience, he was strongly entreated to do so by celestial beings. Upon this, he agreed to do so, using his skillful means to frame the teaching in accordance with the condition of his hearers. He said, Then, on remembering what former Buddhas performed by their power of skillful means, I resolved that the way which I had now achieved should be taught as the 3 vehicles. After teaching in terms of various distinctions, he finally judged it time to honestly discard skillful means and only proclaim the supreme way. And, as if to emphasize the appropriateness of this shift, a verse shortly following says, "In the same style in which the Dharma is preached by the Buddhas of the 3 worlds, so also do I now proclaim the undivided Dharma." This stanza fascinatingly couples the plurality of the Buddhas with the non-divided Dharma. It also emphasizes the manner of the activity of a Buddha.